So we're moving on to a final stage of design, which are these, well, tendons, maybe, some kind of muscle fibers, you name it, ligaments, some kind of body parts, you know, looking very, very gloomy. This side is done, and I'm going to show you how to achieve that effect on the other end in just a second. Step number one, guys, is get yourself a good tape. I know it's not your 99p special tape, but it's got quite a few benefits, and I'll tell you what it is. It's exactly the same paint I use over here, cutting up that design. Number one, it will prevent a paint creep. Obviously, to a degree, a lot of paint creep comes from a spraying technique as well. You don't want to make it too wet around here when you first lay it down. And obviously good surface preparation is the key, but a good tape will avoid a paint creep massively. Number two, that tape, even though it's avoiding paint creep, it's not super strong. I mean, you can plaster it, and this is just water-based candy, and you can pull it off, and I'm confident it's not gonna pull my artwork. Again, surface preparation is the key, but really strong paint, tape, can pull it off, and you don't want that. And reason number three, this particular tape is semi-see-through, so if I apply it on my panel, I can see exactly where the artwork is. Well, not exactly, obviously. This is a very dark panel patch, and the colors are not very contrasting, but against blue and blacks, you know, over there, and whites over there, I could see exactly when I can cut. So if you need to mask it off like this, that semi-transparent paint is gonna be a lifesaver. So again, guys, get yourself a good tape. Doesn't matter what brand it is. I'm not sponsored by anybody, but get yourself a good tape. Don't buy a cheap shit from Home Depot or from your Tesco's, because that's just not gonna work. Get yourself a good tape, and it's gonna save you a lot of time. Okay, now we have our paint covered. So whenever I want that muscle fiber, that tendon, that ligament, whatever the fuck that is, I'm just applying that paint, and I'm gonna draw it by hand. The benefit as well, again, I can see where the underlayer is when the artwork is, so I can draw my tendon over here, the muscle fibers, and I can cut it out with my X-Acto knife. There it is. I can cut it out with my X-Acto knife, and that kind of becomes a stencil, so I can have a nice, clean, sharp edges. Once your design is cut out, well, you have to multiply it by however many times you want to multiply it by. Simple as that. So I've got a design multiplied in a number of ways. This is my veins, my ligaments, you name it. Now I need to apply white. Why white? Well, I want the red to stand out big time. I want to make it brighter, and the way to pronounce the red basically on that already red background is to make a white background first, and then I'm going to spray red base on top of it. Today's weapon of choice are two airbrushes. They're both by Badger, and they're both Patriot 105. That's an original one, and that's an extreme one. They're very similar. I've got them set up differently. This one is with 0.3 needle. This one is with multi-purpose 0.7 needle and nozzle setup. I really like these workhorses. And they're not super detailed airbrushes, but it's not a super detailed artwork we're dealing with. So these guys come in real handy. Guys, the artwork itself, it's not hugely demanding. I mean, it is. I mean, the complexity of it and the time I had to spend to mask everything out, and then unmask it, and then remask it, and then reverse mask it, and fuck about with it so many hours. And the size of that project, that is a challenge, but artistically on its own it's not extremely demanding. That whole project, it is not, but it doesn't mean we don't need to do a good job on it. And even though we're just spraying it white to make a base for the next color, already straight away over here we can start building a base for what's coming next. So all those muscle fibers, if we build up a structure in a white, it's going to be so much easier to cover it up with red, because we already can build up the base for what's coming next. So instead of just spraying white across this, we can build up a base straight away. And muscle fibers gonna go this way because they're gonna go in horizontal manner, and you can see the structure already is building up. So by doing so, I'm building up kind of a base that will be showing later on. Instead of just spraying it the whole thing white, so just uniform color, I can start working straight away on the foundation of what's coming next. Well, I hope you know what I mean anyway. I'm gonna carry on doing that for the whole panel over here, and we take it from there. This is how we're looking with white base, and we're gonna cover it up with red base. So with the red loaded up in my airbrush, I'm working the same format, same pattern over here, and I'm already building this up, the structure. I'm kind of trying to follow the white lines, but in the end of the day, just lines. So building them patterns like this is gonna make the whole thing look a lot better. And remember, you can always add more paint. It's going to be very difficult to remove the paint if you go too much. So light passes and more of them is the key to success over here. Just like with anything else, really. Anyway, I'm going to carry on doing that across the whole panel, and I'll show you what to do next. Rock and roll. We got it all red and fully covered pretty much, but it's looking a little bit flat. So what we need to do now is produce some highlights and some shadows, and the simplest way to do it, you attack it with some white. In this case, I'm going to attack it where I want the light to hit it from, and in pretty much 90% of the cases of any painting is going to be really pretty much from the top towards bottom. Sometimes you can do it from the angle left to right or right to left, doesn't matter. Very unlikely the light's gonna hit it from the bottom. It's usually always from the top, unless you get a different project. But from this purpose, I can picture my light basically where my light is. So that makes it easy. Light hits it from the top. Anything on the top of that muscle fibers is gonna be highlighted with lighter color. Let's do it now. With all my highlights in place, the next thing is to drop some shadow, and I'm dropping some black into my red, just a few drops, because black alone is always too black, so you don't want to mix it with the base color anyway, and that would blend it very nicely. I'm going to go ahead and do it now. Needless to say, the shadows goes on the opposite side of highlights. There's always exception from the rule. But if you do it this way, it works very well. You can always go in gently and just drop some shadow directly underneath that highlight, like over here, just to emphasize that kind of indefinite and give it some more texture. Basically play with it, you can't really go wrong. Okay, so we've got highlights and we've got shadows completed, and at that point we're nearly there. I say nearly because you can go back and forth, you can give as much texture as you want. I can literally spend hours and hours working these bits, but there's a level to everything. It's a drag bike, it's meant to run very quickly on a drag strip, and nobody would be looking at it, you know, it's not a show bike, nobody will be looking at it from that perspective, you know, and looking every single detail of it, and you will see it doing I don't know, I don't even know the figures, you know, less than 3 seconds to 60 miles an hour, that's for sure. So you won't be seeing all the details, so you need to stop at one point. Again, we need to do a good job with it, but there's a level of doing it somewhere else, so at that point I'm happy to stop. Right now it's still looking a little bit ugly, but don't you be discouraged about it. We got it all masked out, so it looks blurry, it looks like a blurrial, and the whole thing is not very attractive. Let me unmask it, and we're gonna do another tiny step just after we do this next one. Night and day difference, right? This is all nice, crisp and clean, and you can actually see the highlights, and you can kind of see the shadows. It all makes sense. But it's not over yet. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna carry on with the same dark red I created the shadows with, and I'm gonna go right over here to create the kind of shadow to replicate basically what I've done over here. So it looks 3D, it looks like it's underneath. I'm gonna go all around the edges over here and there. Not only that, I'm gonna go right here and here and here to make these muscle fibers look like they drop in shadow on that tissue underneath, so to make them stand out even further, make them even more 3D. So it's not only just flat pictures on it. I'm gonna drop a shadow right over here and underneath. For this I don't need to mask it out, I'm just gonna do it by hand. Just to show you quickly, it's difficult because I'm airbrushing with one hand and I'm operating camera with one hand. Again guys, one-man band, yeah? So forgive my camera work. But anyway, I'm doing very light passes, like this, blending that in, just to create a bit of a 3D effect. I don't need to completely cover that up, and it don't need to be completely black. I want it to be one step further from the background, but still underneath whatever it masks over here, which is that white blue kind of effect. So once I do a few passes over here, again, very light passes, and I can do it multiple times. Once I complete this, I create a shadow, probably an inch, maybe less, half an inch away from that. So I just go with the same dark red. I kind of follow the contour of that muscle fiber, of that tendon. Yeah. I'm not doing it black, I'm doing it dark red, so it doesn't stand out too much, you know? It kind of covers the white, the lighter color underneath on that background. I'm gonna do the same over here. You can see it covers the lighter part of it, but it's enough to create that shadow effect. And that's what I'm going for. I don't want to make it too profound, I don't want to make it see like it's super duper shadow. Just want to hide it slightly behind and create that effect. And if you step back, the difference between this one and this one, well, you tell me. Once it's dried, it's not so shiny anymore and covered in clear coat, you can tell that this one, it's standing out of the image, when this one just flat on it. I'm gonna carry on for the whole panel, and then we're gonna unmask the whole thing and see how we're looking. I am happy with that as we stand, and now I'm gonna unmask the whole thing and see what we produced over the last couple of hours. And I have to cut it here, guys, because the video is getting quite long. That's all I have time for it right now, but part 3 is on my computer and I'm editing it as we speak. So part 3 and final part coming out, well, hopefully more or less same time next week. So you see how the beast actually looks when it's completely finished and ready to rock and roll. Guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Rock hard, have a beer, and part 3 coming more or less same time next week. See you then.